In this video, we're gonna go over how to fly the RNAV GPS runway 30 in Half Moon Bay in California. With every of our videos, do keep it in mind, these are educational for entertainment purposes. This is not to replace certified instruction. You gotta work with a one-on-one instructor. If you are looking for instruction, we do offer remote instruction. Link is gonna be in the video description at readyroger.com. If you're ever in Manhattan, you can welcome to come and visit us, and to make a reservation, visit aviator.nyc. So at the moment, we're just a few miles south of Sapede, and we're gonna be flying the full approach, right? We also recently recorded a video, it's gonna be on your top left, for Palo Alto, the RNAV. That one is slightly different because that's an LNAV only with a VNAV plus. It's going to be for guidance with vertical guidance. This is going to be an LPV approach, and we'll go over some of the differences here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, procedure, select approach. Half Moon Bay automatically comes up. We didn't have a flight plan. The only reason Half Moon Bay came up is because that was the nearest approach, near airport. We're going to select the RNAV GPS LPV. We're going to select Sapede minimums. 327, so 330. And because we don't have a flight plan, it's going to ask us to activate. In this case, it works. And that activate is the same thing as activating the approach. Activating the approach versus clear for the approach and arming the approach mode on the autopilot, two different things. Okay, so now let's check the information. We're expecting to cross Sapede or above 3,800. Jumbat, 3,800. Final approach fix is going to be 3,300. And notice how that one is on white versus Jumda is highlighted in the magenta color. The reason is because here we're going to be actually flying the glide path with the approach using the WAAS system. One thing I did forget to mention, we'll press procedure, select approach. When you're loading the LPV, you got to look here. You got to look for this approach channel 50302 ID W Whiskey 30 Alpha, and make sure it matches up here. It always does, but you have to do that. And the only reason we're doing that is because it's a WAAS approach and we're flying the LPV minimums. I'm not going to load it. I just wanted to show you that. Then the final approach fix. That Mavic 2200 is only for LNAV only, and we see that there. Missed approach, then it's going to be climbing. Pappies are on the left. It's going to be straight ahead. Notice that the 381, it's interesting, it actually loads 381. That's a sequencing waypoint. And it just loads it up in there, because then it has to go to Lasky, which is pretty much fly heading, which is direct to Lasky, and hold on Lasky in the 267. This is going for 269, and then hold on the 144 inbound, and this is showing 146 at 4,000 feet. So yeah, that looks good. So now, because that looks good, I'm going to select nav, and ATC, we're going to assume ATC gives us cross direct Sapede, cross Sapede are above 3,800. We're clear for the approach. I'm going to unpause the sim. We're going to go back to 20 inches. Now I haven't set up the radios. So let me go and set them up now. That should be 27 for the ATIS, 27. Synchronize the heading bug. There's a Pete, 3,800. In 4 minutes and 20 seconds is going to start that descent via VNAV. And what we can do is we actually can set 3,800, which is already set. The reason why we're going to wait to activate the VNAV, especially on the GFC 700, is because if we activate it now, there's a 50-50 chance that it's not going to honor the VNAV. If you look at the manual, some manual says 1 minute, some others one said 2 minutes. But if you always wait until the 1 minute when you hear vertical track and you press VNAV, it will always honor it. Synchronize the heading bug. One thing we should have mentioned, we still have 4 miles, plenty of time to talk about this. This video is being recorded in 4K, so make sure that if you have a question, one is make sure it's displaying in 4K. Two is that you can zoom in on any window that we're talking about, since this format is divided into 4 quadrants. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. One thing I do, well, by the way, I wouldn't say it's common sense, but the only reason I'm talking about this as we're doing this 3,800 is, one, we're in a simulator, but if you were to be in the real airplane, stir flight deck rules apply. Don't be talking about anything other than what actually is pertaining the operation of that airplane, because it's very easy to get distracted. And as a matter of fact, as I fly these approaches, you will see, because I'm constantly talking to give you the most information, I will make mistakes. Because I get distracted, because I got to multitask. Pilots, we're not multitasking. We're just doing one operation quick and move on to the other one, and then move on to the other one, and move on to the other one. 2 minutes, 36 seconds for the VNAV path. And we can see it's going to be right there by jump down. I'm going to set the RPM 2200 with the blue lever, because you didn't realize we're flying a Cessna 182 G1000 with a GFC 700. So now I change. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit the simulator. Jumped at 3,300, and notice that it's not gonna do anything else because the VNAV was already at 3,800. Now the next altitude is 3,300, but we're actually going to be flying that speed, that altitude via the approach mode, because ATC already cleared us, and I should have done this before. GPS autopilot altitude 3,800 glide path. Here in 1 mile, 1.1 mile is going to switch over to the CDI should switch over to LPV, GPS LPV, and right away will give us the glide path. And here comes 0.1 miles, GPS terminal. There's a switch, LPV, glide path is alive. We're inside 140. Once we intercept the glide path, we lower 10 degrees, about 1 mile to 0.5 miles, we lower 20 degrees, because this is a fairly short runway. And that's almost the same thing as Palo Alto. We setting up early, we're configuring flaps. If you need the flaps for landing, for the performance of the landing, you got to set them up prior to the final approach fix. I'm accelerating the simulation. That way we're not watching paint dry. Glide path alive. Going back to normal speed. Now, we are capturing the glide path early while we're capturing the glide path.
4 o'clock. High, 7 miles.
Early, that does not constitute that we're established on the approach. We're only established on the approach until we cross the final approach fix. We're just flying the glide path guidance early. There it is, glide path intercept, pull the power back. Now we got to be slowing down to 120, which is flaps 20. And we can set missed approach altitude 4,000 since the glide path is active. 0.5 miles, I'll reduce my power even more, mixture forward, props forward. 120. And the approach speed is going to be about 95 to 100 knots. I mentioned this earlier before. If we go to the waypoint, it's actually 5,000, so it's not that short of a runway. Stuff that you can do prior to the pre-flight. And I got there is by moving the FMS knobs. We did cross the final approach fix, altitude checks. And we'll see if we can honor that Mavic at 2020, which I think we will. And that's following the LPV. And that altitude is only for LNAV. We're flying LPV, so we don't need to worry about it, because we're flying the WAAS capabilities of this approach. The reason why it still loads it, that Mavic, It's in case you actually don't have LPV, it still gives you the information for it. Mavic, we're crossing at 2020, looking good. Now we have 5 miles to a missed approach point. We're right on target speed. Missed approach is set. At some point they would actually tell us to switch over to Unicom, and Half Moon Bay Unicom. Cessna 1060 Tango, RNAV 30. Radio communications is not the purpose of this video, so I'm just giving you the call just to give you some timing on it. With this call should have been done at the final approach fix. $1,000 of minimums. We're coming up on, not yet, but we will be in 500 here at 800 and change. There we go, 500 feet. I'm gonna pull my power mixture forward, pops forward, and I'll open the cow flips for the mist. $200.
500.
$100. Approaching minimums. We're going to simulate that we don't have a runway, even though we do. We've got ground contact. Autopilot disengage. PES toga. Nav. 10 degrees of flaps. Follow flight director. Above, well, we're not. So I'm going to hang on in here. We're going to be above 800 feet to engage the autopilot and climb. There it is. And autopilot on, nav, 4,000 feet. Half Moon Bay traffic. Cessna 1060 Tango, missed approach, runway 30. Last call. And NorCal, 1060 Tango, missed approach, runway 130 RNAV. And then we just lower the nose to 5 degrees, and I'll pause the simulator. Missed approach is a very high workload phase, so therefore you better have you not only brief it, but have the game plan on track. If you actually notice here on the bottom right, even at 1,500, I didn't finish raising the flaps. So therefore, that's when a climb checklist does come in handy, and it's should be part of your operating procedure to be doing the checklist, because that's going to help you catch that kind of stuff. For the purposes of this video, notice how we were talking about there's a lot of stuff going on here making this video, so that's going to be my excuse on why I didn't raise my flaps. But you got to understand what the programming of the Garmin G1000 system is, depending on the airplane you're flying. Remember, your home simulator is still a very valuable tool. However, I do, and we recommend that you actually use it with somebody coaching you remotely at a very minimum for you to be practicing the correct stuff. If you have any questions, welcome to visit our website at readyroger.com, and the link is going to be on the video description below. We also have other videos. Take a look at them.